So here we have a very simple profile page that we navigate to when we either register or log in. Right now, it only shows the raw data of the user that is being retrieved from the database. Let's improve this by adding a form where a user might be able to update some of their information. So let's go to the profile page. Notice that right now it's just displaying the raw JSON object that represents a currently logged in user. So let's create a couple of input fields here that will allow us to manipulate that information and update it. So here what we're going to do is display the current username. And we'll have the class. We'll say that this is a form full, and the placeholder will be, say, placeholder. We'll say username, and we'll use that for displaying all the information here. So for user, we'll say this is a if we want to change the password again. And we can change their email. I guess I shouldn't be able to change the email, but provide here we can change their first name. We can provide the first name because we don't have that information at first. Also, we can set their last name. And what else? I guess they can change. Oops. Email. So let's put placeholders for this. So this is email, and the type for this is that it's an email. Last name, that's a string. So we'll say this is last name, first name, password again. And this is password. And now at the bottom, we might have maybe a button that if they click, they'll notify the controller that they want to update the user and pass the user. All right, so we'll say current user, and then we'll a little prettier, saying that this is a button. There's a button primary and button block. So take up the whole screen, and then we'll say here update and close the button. There we go. Yeah, so if we refresh the page, right, and we actually log in, we say Dan, we have the information, right? We have Dan's information, username, the password, we have his email. And we click on update. Right now, we don't have a controller for that. So let's create the controller for the profile page in the same directory. So we'll create here profile.controller.js. And in here, we might say that this is function. And in here, we might say angular.module. The application is called app. And we're creating a controller called profile controller, implemented by a function also by saying the same name. Function. And here we're going to create a model that implements that function, that event handler, also update user. There we go. So we'll say that vm.user is going to be implemented by a function of the same name that takes into as a parameter the user, the new information about that user, and we'll use a user service. User will delegate the task of actually updating the user to a user service, a shared user service, which we're going to ask for here by ask the framework to inject it for us. And I will maybe do a function here to display the response, console response, which the service will provide us when the server responds. So we'll need to add this user to the service. There we go. We'll add it here. Let's say user, implemented by this function here. Oops. Function of the user that takes in the user and the callback. And in here, we'll use HTTP. We'll use put to send to the server the fact that we are updating. And we'll pass in the user information. And if it's successful, we'll call back the callback function. Here we go. Now, we're almost done here on the client. The only other thing that we should not forget is that we that control we just added for the profile, we need to add it here. So it's source, that's in the profile page. Controller.js. Okay, I think we're all set with the. Oops, wait a minute, let me close that. Like that. There we go. We were done on the client side. Let's go now to the server side. So on the server, we're going to have to listen in for that input request. So we're going to say app.put res 8. I just realized we're going to need something here. We're going to need the ID of the user, right? And that's embedded in the user object. Okay, so we can extract it from there. Okay, so we can say var user from the body. But this is an existing user, right? We're updating an existing user. So the ID of the user is embedded in the user objects, right? So first we have to find that user and update that user. So there's a couple ways that we can do it. We can actually look up that user by the ID, and then once we have the user that we found by ID, we can then update it. So we can say something like user.find by ID, and the ID is inside of the user._ID property, right? And if it's found, right, it's going to retrieve the found user. I was going to provide it for us as an argument here, and then we can say found user.update, right? And we can use the update function to say, well, I want you to update using the data that's inside of the request, right? And when that's done, when the server's done doing that, it'll notify us either with an error or the number of count of how many records were actually updated, right? So we can send that back to the client as as an acknowledgement that it actually occurred, right? If 0 were updated, then that must mean that no records were updated, or how many ever. Hopefully, it'll just be 1. Right, okay, so I think we're done on the server. The client is going to receive that, right, the response, and just send it back to the controller, and the controller is just going to spit it out and display it on the console. So let's restart the server. Okay, fine. And so now, if we reload this, right, we don't have a user, so let's log in. So let's log in as Dan and Dan. Let's say login. And so what we could do here is provide here with a Dan, and this would be, we'll say update that. We'll update. Let's see if that actually generated a in the network. No, that doesn't seem to have worked. Let me refresh this. And if we log in as Dan, and we update, okay, the update doesn't seem to be generating anything. Oh, I think we forgot something on the clients. In the config, I don't know, do we give the profile its own controller? Okay, we didn't. We never told that the profile page is its own controller, right? So we'll say that the controller for this page is the profile controller, and the alias is just the plain old controller. Yeah, let's try that again. Let's go to the login page, and let's log in again. Let's clear this. Again, so login worked. And if we pass in just the username, we'll say update. Okay, so it did go through. And we, okay, said that it was okay. The response notice that says that there was one record that was modified. So if we try to log in again as Dan, okay, notice that the first name was indeed modified. Very good. So yeah, so there we go. We were able to create from the front end, create a service that hosted a put that with new data for the user, and then the server handling that and updating the data in the database.